Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. Good to see you again as well. We bring Midwest greetings, and it's actually for once warmer in the Midwest than it is here in DC. So thank you again for appearing before our committee. There are clearly a lot of impressive happenings at the DOT, innovations, as we've heard already today, to help with global competitiveness, investment in rural development, and I look forward to continuing to work with you on those efforts. And about a year ago, we had a discussion about wanting to simplify, obviously, the forms and the grant process. And so I was very encouraged to hear about what's happening with the websites and trying to make that more user-friendly as well. So I'm very excited to hear more about your work there. But just wanted to raise a quick alarm about a couple of things. Number one, I think there's a couple of areas in the budget that I think spend quite a bit of taxpayer money on programs that won't really help Iowans. And a couple of those areas, specifically billions of dollars for Amtrak train lines. Obviously, that's all going to go to the Northeast Corridor. People living between New York and DC will get a lot of that money. It's already one of the most heavily funded public transportation corridors in the country. And you also mentioned the $1 billion investment just to build out the network of electric vehicle chargers. And, Iowans see that as $1 billion investment in China for critical mineral production. And Iowans have been very clear with me, they don't want to send their tax dollars to China to help with electric vehicle charging stations that we can't really use right now. When you look at the numbers in Iowa, about a tenth of 1% of the registered vehicles in my district are electric vehicles. So Iowans right now are not trading in their affordable vehicles, their reliable vehicles, their farm trucks for impractical, luxury, expensive electric vehicles that can't go more than 200 miles without recharging. And a couple things there. First, these EVs were not really built with rural Americans' long distances across counties to get to childcare and work. I just visited a place where people are driving 40 miles each way to and from childcare 2 times a day. That completely depletes your ability to go anywhere else. Secondly, Iowans can't afford it. I just talked with a mom in Waterloo who's concerned about her shrinking paycheck, covering the rising costs that she's facing, gas and groceries, not buying a new electric vehicle that costs, respectfully, $50,000 to $60,000 on average. And adding charging stations and then suggesting that people should be out there buying a new electric vehicle is truly an out-of-touch response to what my constituents are facing right now. So I just wanted to ask specifically today, Mr. Secretary, when it comes to these investments in electric vehicles and $16 million investment in electric vehicles, can you describe where that specifically would go?
Sure. So first of all, let me put to rest some misconceptions about electric vehicles and ones that would, I think, be especially interesting to your constituents. So let's take the electric trucks that are coming onto the market, say a Silverado or a F-150 Lightning, for example. Those are all electric models. They start about $40,000, and they have a range in the 200 to 300 plus mile area. And it's actually rural drivers who would benefit the most. I mean, think about some of the drivers you mentioned, right? The more they drive, typically the more of their income is going to gas. And so the more money they're going to save if they can afford an electric vehicle, which allows them to fill up on electrons. So of course, that's not free either.
But electrons are more expensive right now too, Mr. Secretary. I mean, when you look at, I have constituents sending me copies of their electric bills that have more than doubled in the last year too. So when it comes to energy affordability, that is the issue here. No matter what fuel you're using, everything is more expensive right now. So that's why I'm saying respectfully here that electric vehicles are not the answer right now when we're facing these energy affordability crises across the board.
So again, it is less expensive to fill up on electricity than it is to fill up on gas and diesel. That's only the more true recently, but that's been true for some time. And so part of what we're trying to do here is to make sure that families can get the savings. Now, as you know, we also proposed tax credits that would have knocked another $10,000, $12,000 off of the price of those vehicles. So that, for example, F-150 or Silverado that would start at 40, that would get into the high 20s for your constituents. Now, some members voted for that, some members voted against it. We believe it would be a nice complement to what we do have the funding from Congress to do, which is to make those chargers available. Now, one other thing that I think is especially worth mention in areas like the Midwest where you and I come from is that while it's still going to be important to have this kind of electric vehicle infrastructure across the highway network for those longer road trips, Well, what a lot of folks don't realize is that many people, especially in rural areas where a majority of families live in single family homes, have electric vehicle infrastructure already. It's called the plug in your wall. In other words, an ordinary wall plug, while of course not as fast as a level 2 charger or something like that, is something that can be used to charge a family vehicle. Look, we're in a race against time. We are seeing effects, some of which have been experienced, certainly in Iowa, of disturbingly frequent and extreme weather events related to climate. Many scientists believe we're within just a few years of a point of no return. And we have technology that exists right now that's creating American jobs that can save American taxpayers money today on their gas or diesel bills if we just act to make sure that it's affordable, which is what those tax credits are about, and act to make sure that we have that kind of charging infrastructure. So, even with a 300-mile range, we know that that's not going to work for everybody with longer driving patterns. We could help them, and we will, using this funding. I don't want to miss the opportunity just to let you know something else I think you'll be relieved to hear on the Amtrak side, which is that if you look, for example, at the 23 budget and the $3 billion requested for Amtrak, 1.2 billion of that is for the Northeast corridor, 1.8 for the national network. So I would hate for anybody to go out thinking that this was only going to the Northeast corridor. That's certainly, of course, where a lot of the passengers, a lot of the revenue, a lot of the economic activity connected to Amtrak is. But the vision really is for a nationwide network that'll benefit this country coast to coast.